Hi, this is Kent Boydston, Research Analyst at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Last Sunday, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and South Korean President Park Geun-hye met for a trilateral summit, the first of its kind in nearly 3.5 years. These trilateral summits at the highest level between China, Japan, and South Korea were first started in 2008 and with the plan to meet annually, but were derailed in 2012 due to issues over Japan's interpretation and approach toward history issues as well as territorial disputes in Northeast Asia. No grand initiatives came out of the recent talks between these leaders, and indeed it seems like the primary objective of the talks was to have the talks themselves. Probably the most important result of the meeting was that the three sides agreed to completely restore trilateral cooperation. What the talks didn't do was resolve sensitive history or territorial issues, and there was no new strategy or approach toward dealing with North Korea's nuclear threat, even while all three sides renewed their commitment to pursuing a nuclear weapons-free Korean peninsula. On the political economy side, China and Japan did notably lend support to President Park's Northeast Asia Peace and Cooperation Initiative. Park's plan to integrate North Korea into the rest of Asia, and particularly in peace building and economic relations. Also inserted into the joint statement was mention that China and Japan had acknowledged and heard President Park's plan for a new Northeast Asia Development Bank. Park's plan to fund projects in Northeast Asia, particularly in and around North Korea. South Korea and China have found themselves on the same side of trade and economic relations in the last few years, and last March, South Korea notably applied to become a founding member of China's Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, the AIIB, amidst U.S. concerns. And China itself has recently shown an interest previously about Park's Northeast Asia Development Bank project. For Japan, which has declined to join China's AIIB, Park's Northeast Asia Development Bank could be a vehicle for cooperation between China, Japan, and South Korea moving forward. That being said, simply acknowledging that Park had mentioned the Northeast Asia Development Bank in the joint statement is far from an endorsement from Prime Minister Abe, and for a bank clearly focused on development projects in and around North Korea, the major partner missing from this is Pyongyang itself, and that continues to be the major holdup for such a project. The three sides also pledged to collaborate on a list of low-hanging fruit issues, including exchange programs, joint research, disaster management, and strengthening innovation in industry. The statement also mentioned a desire to accelerate free trade talks between China, Japan, and South Korea. And this is already in a region where these three countries already have very robust economic ties. China is Japan and South Korea's largest trading partner, and South Korea and Japan are each other's third largest trading partners. China and South Korea also recently signed an FTA together, and South Korea is likely to join Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP talks, of which Japan is already a member. But so far, China, Japan, South Korea FTA talks have not produced any meaningful results. And the most likely way to move forward on expanding free trade between South Korea and Japan is through the TPP. After the China-Japan-South Korea summit on Sunday, Abe and Park held additional bilateral talks on Monday, the first of their kind also since 2012. Both sides again discussed sensitive history issues, but did not come to any solid conclusions. However, they did agree that they should resolve this issue and face it head-on at the earliest possible time. It's also important to note that this Japan-South Korea high-level talks occurred at the same time that U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter was also in Seoul meeting with his counterpart, South Korean Defense Minister Han Min-gu, where they discussed ways to increase cooperation between the U.S. and South Korean to prevent attacks from North Korea. Here, Abe and Park, renewing the highest level talks, sends a signal that they can work together despite these other sensitive issues to address security concerns. And this was certainly a signal that was well received in Washington. Talks for talk's sake are not necessarily newsworthy, but in the case of China, Japan, and South Korea, with such enormous security and economic interests at play, simply agreeing that trilateral cooperation has been restored and going back to where the countries had been even a few years ago is a major step forward. For more commentary on the recent bilateral and trilateral talks, please see the Peterson Institute's North Korea Witness to Transformation blog, and particularly a post from Steph Haggard. And on this blog, you will find regular commentary on East Asia political economy issues, with a particular focus on the Korean Peninsula and North Korea.